Michael Hooper, one of the co-captains of the Australian Wallabies, is not lining up this weekend to play against the Argentinian Los Pumas in Sydney. Is that going to cause a problem for Australia? Let's find out in this video. Welcome everyone to Inside Sport. My name is Mark and I'm really pleased that you're here. If you're one of my many subscribers now across the world, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, why not hit that little subscribe button and help out this fledgling new YouTuber get a global community going. In fact, we've got over 50 countries now involved in our subscribers across the world, so that's really exciting to see the rugby community coming together across the world. Now, we have a great game going on this weekend in Sydney, Australia, between the Australian Wallabies and the Argentinian Los Pumas. The Pumas come to town after having a thrashing from the All Blacks in the first half, much better performance in the second half, and it's going to be really interesting to see what Pumas team turns up in Sydney this weekend. Now, the game's been played at Parramatta Stadium, which is in the western suburbs of Sydney. Many of you might know that the Women's FIFA World Soccer Cup is on at the moment in Australia and New Zealand, and some of the big stadiums that we would normally see for our rugby are being used by the FIFA World Cup Series, so that's why we're playing in some of these stadiums. But the Parramatta Stadium is a great stadium. I'm sure we're going to have a good crowd there. I think it takes about 40 to 45,000 people, so it should be a great atmosphere, and I'm sure the Aussies are keen to put on a win at home to show their home fans they shouldn't lose faith, and to help Eddie Jones on his new tenure as well. So plenty's been said about this game, and despite the distraction across the ditch in New Zealand with the Springboks playing New Zealand, I think this game is really exciting and has a lot of potential, because one of the teams is going to find themselves doing a lot of soul searching as we head into the last round of the Rugby Championship this year. Both teams are in a situation where they want to win this game, that's for sure. Now, I want to take away for a second the whole emphasis that a lot of the media is putting on the clash between Michael Cheika and Eddie Jones. Of course, they're two Australian rugby coaches, both coming from the Randwick area in Sydney, and both having opportunities throughout their careers to have one over the other. Cheika was the last one to have that when he took Argentina to a win against England at Twickenham. And that 1 point victory on that day was a bit of a sour point, I think, for Eddie Jones, and may have been the reason for his demise as the England coach. But we're living in the now, and this game is this weekend, so let's put aside the coaching hassles for a minute and focus on the actual players that are going to be taking to the pitch in the weekend. And let's start off with Argentina. Look, they didn't perform that well in the first half against the All Blacks, but the All Blacks came out with a mission, and they were able to execute that with high energy and high passion and a lot of forward running in that first half against the Pumas. And I think we saw what I've already talked about in other videos about the All Blacks backing off in the second half, losing the emphasis, in addition to the Pumas stepping up and playing much better. So I'm thinking that if the Pumas that turned up in the second half against the All Blacks run out onto the field this weekend, then we're going to see a different story in this particular game. So again, the All Blacks were more dominant in all areas of the play, I thought, and once the Argentinian Pumas were put under pressure in that first half, it really took a lot of the emphasis and momentum that they might have got out of the game. Let's face it, if they'd scored a try in that first minute, that game could have been a lot different. It wasn't, and we've got to deal with what we've got. So let's look at Australia. Australia's coming off a thrashing to the Springboks, and a lot of people are talking about a lot of pressure being put on Eddie Jones already. Well, I think we're going to see a different Australian team turn up this week for a number of reasons. I think that they've had an extra week together, which I think is going to mean something as the continuity of the team comes together. I think they're also going to look at a big debrief on that game against the Springboks and just see where they went wrong.
Yeah, look, that's not one real proud of. Obviously, went over there with a plan. Things didn't go to plan. Bit of a baptism of fire out there. They're a bloody good side, shown by their world champs, the current Rugby World Cup holders. So, kind of shows how far off the mark. But look, I thought there were some positives out there. I know it's hard to kind of hear that right now. But yeah, we've been together, I think, as a squad of 33 for 5 sessions before that, and there were some things that we were well short of, and we know that now, and we'll quickly get there. But there's some areas that we saw a little bit of, within the group, a little bit of growth.
Yeah, as you say, like they're world class, they're world champions. Them and the All Blacks, they're really clinical. They don't seem to make a lot of errors. There's a lot of fundamental errors. Wallabies, how do you sort of get rid of them, eliminate them from the game? It's like sort of, transferring bad ball, kicking out on the ball in general play, not finding touch. Their fundamentals really shouldn't happen.
Yeah, no, you're right. They shouldn't. We're focusing on getting clarity. Like I said, we've been together for a short period of time. It's a long year. Been together for 5 sessions, and not making excuses, but we're still finding a bit of clarity in the way we want to play. Like I said, some parts of the game we got real clarity. Others, really found wanting, and we'll get there. It's like I said, we're going up against the world champs there, a team that's been together, under the same staff, same group of players for like 8 years, have real, real clarity in the way they want to play the game, and it's bloody hard to stop. And we're getting there, but look, it's still a bitter pill to swallow, that one. Not quite where we want to be.
Of course, there was a lot of dominance by the Springboks in that game. There's no doubt about that. But there were hints of opportunities for the Wallabies. And I think if the Wallabies had taken some of those opportunities, either the score might have been a little bit closer, or we might have even seen a Wallaby win. Who knows? I know we're far away from that, but there were signs in that game that the Wallabies have something to give. It's a case of whether they're able to deliver that on the pitch this weekend. I think it's a must-winning for Australia in terms of their momentum going forward for the World Cup. To lose to the Pumas at home would be a big mental shock, I think, as well as the overall tally for the standings in this year's Rugby Championship. So I think we are going to see a different Australian team in terms of their execution on the field. I like the team that Eddie Jones has selected, and why don't we take a look at that right now? So Australia is currently ranked number 7 team in the world. That's 1 place ahead of the Argentinian Pumas in 8th position. And this is the run-on side and the replacements for the game on Saturday in Sydney. So you can see there we've got Tom Wright at fullback. Didn't think he had a very good game against the Springboks. He was under pressure a lot and his defence was lacking a bit. Mark Noah Quintiawasi, I hope I got that right, everybody. But he's coming in, he's a great player, and I think he's going to bring a lot of excitement to this Aussie backline. I'm not going to go through all the team player by player, but I think it's good to see Karevi getting a start. Corabetti, I mentioned him in my video against the Springboks. I think he was one of the very few players that did turn up last week against the Springboks. Had a great game, scored a great try. He's a mountain out there on the wing, and he can break through any defensive line in the world. So expect Corabetti to do some damage on Saturday. He always tends to do that. Quade Cooper still finding his feet again. I think he hasn't found that little magic sauce. I'm not a huge fan of Quade Cooper, but I think on the day he's just as good as anybody. And he can definitely bring that spontaneity to the Australian backline. And I think they're going to need a little bit of that. Similar to what the All Blacks did against Argentina, they're going to have line breakers, people that can get past the first line of defence of the Argentinians, and Cooper's definitely somebody that can do that. Nick White's back in at halfback. Pretty average game against the Springboks, so I think he'll be wanting to up his game again, as will most of the team, the Wallaby teams, this team this weekend. So Fraser McWright comes in for Michael Hooper, and I think this is a great move. I like McWright. He's a really big, strong guy. He's been training extremely well according to the Australian camp, and he's ready for his big encounter. I love the locks that the Wallabies are bringing into this game, Will Skelton and Richie Arnold. Richie Arnold came on in the second half of the game against the Springboks, and I thought he played quite well, so it's going to be interesting to see him get a start. He's a big guy, as is Will Skelton, so I think these two are really going to take it to the big Argentinian pack, at least hold their own, if not give the Wallabies a little bit of an advantage. The front row is strong. Alatoa, James Slipper, of course, as captain, and Parecki's back in there as the hooker. Parecki got sent off last weekend, so he'll be wanting to watch his discipline. And Eddie Jones will be making sure that this is a big talking topic around the group this week. Their discipline let them down against the Springboks, and they've got to clean that up. Tends to come when you have a lot of pressure on you, right? So I think the Wallabies need to get on top of their discipline this week, and that's going to help them gain momentum to go forward. Wallabies have got the likes of Angus Bell to come on, Matt Philpott, Rob Leota, and Carter Gordon's an exciting one for me as well. I think he's going to add a lot to this Wallaby team. So there we go. That's the run-on side for the Wallabies this weekend. Let me know what you think of the team. Do you think Eddie Jones has got the balance right? Is he trying a few players out here to see what his top team is? I don't think we've seen the Wallaby top team yet. And this is, as I say, going to be a really, really crucial game for them against Argentina. So let's take a look at the Argentinian team, what they're putting out this weekend to play the Wallabies. As I said, the Argentinians are the 8th ranked team in the world, coached by Michael Cheika, and this weekend their running line-on includes Bufali at fullback. Now, I don't think he had a great game against the All Blacks again, was put under a lot of pressure in defence, but didn't see enough ball for him to show what he has out wide. So I think they'll be looking at him getting more involved in the game this weekend. Senti in the centres, he's an exciting guy, and I think he needs to get more ball for him to show what talents he has. Bit of pace on the wings with Carreras, and also Santiago Carreras. We know how good this fly half is. He's a brilliant player. Didn't play that well against the All Blacks, didn't kick that well as well. So he'll be really looking at upping his game. Bertrano's in at halfback again, and this is a guy that, again, was put under a lot of pressure from the All Blacks, as was most of the Argentinian team. So these guys that were put under pressure, they want to be seen on the front foot this week against the All Blacks and really show the talent that this Argentinian team has. It's a bit of a quandary for me, this game. I think the Argentinians, if they come out and play well, they can really take it to the Australians, but we have seen the Argentinians just fall off sometimes, and they just get a huge amount of points scored against them quickly, and then they find it too hard to be able to fight back from there. We've seen that in a number of their games in their history. So whether this is going to be the case again, if Australia gets a good start, puts the Pumas under pressure, I think we're going to see a possible other big score against the Argentinians. But okay, let's have a look at the Argentinian forwards and see how they're going to play this one. We've got Gonzalez at number 8, Grondona at number 7. He's a good flanker. Pablo Matera on the other flank. These guys really need to step up this weekend, get fast to the breakdown, clear those Aussie flankers out. We've got good Aussie flankers playing this weekend, so these guys are going to be critical in making sure that Argentina has quick and clean ball. Lavanini and Alemano at the locks. Let's hope Lavanini stays on the field. We all know around the world that he's prone to get cards and getting sent off. Those guys are going to be critical in the tight this weekend and making sure that the Argentinians win enough ball to have some kind of game plan for their backs. The tight three up front for Argentina: Codella, Montoya, the captain, of course, and Gallo. A good tight pack, but I thought when Creevy came on last week, we saw a resurgence in the Argentinian pack, and I think these guys are going to need to perform better as the run-on team for this weekend. On the bench, Cheika's gone for, again, strong forwards to come on and replace their big machine up front. And we've got Nicolas Sanchez, the veteran in the back there, to come on and replace in the back line. I like Sanchez. I think he's a great player still. And depending on how Santiago Carreras goes at number 10, we'll see Sanchez come on, I'm sure, at some stage. So a well-balanced team, I think, for Argentina, a team that's still finding themselves in this competition. They have to step up, though. We're only into the second game, but it's also the second to last game. And these games are absolutely critical for teams as we head towards the World Cup. So I think the idea of the Pumas getting out there and getting on top of the Australians in the forwards are going to be able to give them an opportunity to put the ball out wide, which I think Cheika is going to want them to do against the Wallabies. We're going to be playing on, hopefully, a fast, hard track at the Parramatta Stadium on Saturday night. And this is going to lend good for both teams to open it up. I can see this one going two ways, folks. I can see the Wallabies having a runaway victory with this one with about 20 points in it. or I can actually see something really, really close like a potential draw again, and we've seen close games between these teams before. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think the Pumas are going to turn up and be able to dial over the Wallabies this weekend in Sydney, or do you think Eddie Jones and the group are going to find their feet this weekend and show a little bit more about what this Wallaby team really has to offer going forward to the World Cup? It's an intriguing battle for me. It's got me pretty indecisive, as has the game in Auckland. But I think after this weekend of the Rugby Championship, we're going to get a really good read on who is where and who needs to improve certain areas. Also, from a player's perspective, now that both teams have had the opportunity to play around with some of their players, I think the coaches are going to be more aware of who's being able to step up as their run-on starting team after this weekend. And I think both for Cheika and Eddie Jones, this is going to be an important outcome of this game this weekend. Consistency is going to be the key going into the World Cup, understanding who your first 23 are, and in particular how they play through that 80 minutes. So as we're seeing in Auckland, that bench, bringing the bench on is going to be critical in that game. I think the bench replacements here are going to be critical in this game in Sydney in the weekend between the Pumas and the Wallabies as well. Really interested to hear your views on this one. Are you calling it a tight game, or do you think one of the teams that is going to go away with it for a win? I put a poll on my community page on my channel yesterday about this game, and there seems to be about a 70% support of a Wallaby victory in this particular match. So what do you think? Check it out on my community page, and go over there and check out all the other polls I have there as well. As rugby fans around the world, I'm really interested to know what you think of the questions that I'm posting. Okay, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the little bell notification. You'll be notified every time I put a video. So I'm picking the Wallabies victory in the weekend, either by a washout of about 20 points or a very close game where the Wallabies just get over the line by 1 or 2 points. That's what I'm putting my money on this weekend if I was a betting man. So there we go. I'll be watching both games live in my living room here in Mexico over the weekend, and I'll be posting review videos straight after the games. So make sure you check back after that to see what I've got to say about both of these wonderful games heading into round 2 of the Rugby Championship this weekend. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks for your support, and I'll be back again soon with another video. Until then, stay safe, enjoy your rugby.